Ghosting in the workplace. What is it? Why do people do it? We're going to talk about it. Ghosting. It's a major concern for both the employer and the employee. Why is it that people don't show up for interviews when they say they're going to show up, or don't show up for their first day at work? And as an employee, why is it that you talk to a headhunter or you talk to a company and everything seems like it's going great? You're almost certain you're going to get that job, and then you get ghosted. No one returns your calls. Nothing happens. Emails don't get returned. What happened? Why did you get ghosted? Let's talk about ghosting from the employee's standpoint or the applicant's standpoint. Why is it you get this call, you're all pumped up, a recruiter's called you, "Hey Mary, how you doing? This is Headhunter Joe. This is a job that I have for you. You're perfect for this job. I would love to submit your resume to this company. Let me know, are you available to relocate? Are you available to do this? How much money do you want?" They sit there and they do the Q&A with you. They're all hepped up. They're like, "Mary, this is a great job. And then all of a sudden, poof, you don't hear from them anymore. You sent your resume in. You had to have it in the next hour. They had to have it right away. Or a cover letter. They wanted a cover letter. They wanted references. They wanted all this stuff. They wanted to know who they could call to get information about you. And everything seemed like it was rolling, and you're all excited, and you've called your friends and your relatives. "Hey, there's this job that's available. This headhunter called me," and nothing. Weeks, months go by. We're going to talk about what happened. I'm going to tell you what happens from a headhunter standpoint, from an executive search person that's not inside the company but paid to basically find talent. And I'm going to talk about it from the standpoint of an internal recruiter from the company calling you. What happens is they see your resume and they give you a holler and they find out what your level of interest is first. If you have no level of interest, they're going to pass you on, go to the next person. But you sound pretty excited about the opportunity. Maybe they've told you the name of the company, maybe they haven't. But they get all this information from you, and then all of a sudden, you're pumped, you're ready for this job. Man, these people called me, and you're excited, and then nothing happens. What's happened is basically they've just screened you. And this is the problem with most headhunters. I have a lot of headhunter friends and a lot of recruiter friends. I've trained a lot of them. They have terrible follow-up. If you aren't money in the bank, if you're not what they call a slam dunk placement, if I can't take you and easily contact the employer and say, "This is the person I have, they fit all of what you've told me you want in a job," then they go on to the next person. And unfortunately, this is where the rudeness comes in. They don't call you back because you are one of probably 50 people they've talked to about the job. And the only people that they really remember are the ones that the employer has said, "I'm interested in candidate A, B, or C. The rest of them I'm not so interested in." So now a good recruiter, a good headhunter will call you back and say, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I presented you to the company. They want to go with somebody else." Now, yeah, sure, you could ask questions of, "Well, why is that?" and that type of thing. But don't put the headhunter on the spot. A lot of times, the headhunter, the recruiter, doesn't know why the hiring authority doesn't want you. They just said no. And they're not going to sit there and drill the person and say, "Well, why don't you want her? She's excellent." They're just not going to do that. The person that the hiring authority is going to say, "I don't want that person." And they're going to say, "Okay, next." They go to the next one. Because now you're no longer money to them. You're not a placement. I hate to say that. You're money to them. You're a placement. You're not a person. It's unfortunate. It's just the way it is. And the bad thing that bad headhunters do, and there's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of bad recruiters out there, is I always told my recruiters, make sure you go, if you call the person, call them back. There's no interest, whatever, but call them back. Today's environment is such where they don't call you back. And then you call them, email them, what's the status, what's going on, what's the status, what's going on. And then you probably get the curt email back saying, "Hello, Sally. Thanks for applying. If there is an interest, I'll get in touch with you. Basically, I'll call you. Don't you call me again." I hate that it's like that, but it just is. when you deal with the headhunter or the recruiter, you got to ask some questions, and I'm going to tell you what those are right now. The questions that you should be asking when you pick up that random call from the recruiter in New York or Dallas or wherever that says, I've got this great job, blah, blah. Don't let them lead the conversation the whole way. Answer their questions, be polite, but say, when can I hear from you? When can I expect to hear back from you? This week, next week, whatever. Is this job solid? Are you on a retained search or are you a contingency recruiter? Contingency recruiters aren't working for the company, they're selling you. Retained recruiters are working for the company, or internal recruiters are working for the company. So ask them, when can I expect to hear back from you? And if I don't hear back from you by that date, may I contact you, and what is the best way for me to contact you to find out what the status is? If you get a lot of hemming and hawing from the recruiter of, well, I'll get back to you in the next week or two, I'll contact you, don't worry about contacting me. Yeah, that's your bullshit alarm. You're probably not going to get a call back. If they're that hot on you, they're going to say, if you don't hear back from me by Tuesday, please give me a call Wednesday and let me know. If you're still interested, and I'll let you know what the status is. Now, here's the thing that you'll get from most recruiters. Hey, Cindy, applicant, I've presented you to this employer, but they haven't gotten back to me. They're at a show in Tucson, Arizona, or they're on vacation, or they're having their meetings, or they haven't made a decision yet, or whatever it may be. You're going to get 101 different excuses you're going to hear. Don't get upset. A lot of times that does happen, and a lot of times the hiring manager, they don't know what they want. They want to see a bunch of people. They don't want to see one, two, or three. They want to see a bunch of people, and they want to see, it's like shopping in a grocery store. They walk in, they kind of move the cart up and down the aisles. Ooh, that looks good. I think I'll try that. As much as people say hiring is a science, it's not a science. It's basically gut feeling. The person sees it and goes, ooh, I think that person's talented. I think they'd fit into this organization. And then the recruiter says, but you said you wanted 3 years of this and 5 years of that. Yeah, but this person's got this, that, and the other. That's what makes it so hard to be a recruiter. So understand from their standpoint, they give the manager exactly what the manager wants. And then the manager's like, yeah, but I like this guy. He doesn't match what I told you I wanted, but I want to talk to him or her. Find out when they're going to contact you back. Make sure that you set something up. If it's going to be Tuesday, can I call you on Wednesday? And then just email them, call them, because not everybody checks their voicemail, and just say, I'll say to them when you follow up, if they haven't contacted you, hey, this is Bill or whatever your name is, and you told me to call you Wednesday. I'll follow up again with you Friday. This tells the recruiter, hey, this guy's not going away. He's going to follow back up. And they're going to call you and say, because they're not going to want to get repeated, because you call them then again on Friday and you say, hey, I'm just trying to get status again. I wasn't able to link up with you. I'll try you again on Monday. Have a great weekend. This is going to tell the recruiter, this guy's going to keep contacting me unless I go back and tell him. Now, if they come back and tell you, well, they haven't made a decision yet, or they haven't, okay, I'm going to tell you something from the inside circle. They're not interested in you. If they were hot on you, they would jump on you. They're not going to say, we don't know. We don't know what we want. They're not going to do that. If they're hot on you and you're the candidate for the job, they are going to jump on you and call you back within 24 and 48 hours, set up an interview, set up a phone call, set up a Zoom meeting. They're going to set up something. If the recruiter's saying, well, they haven't made a decision yet, guess what? Do you want to work there? Do you want to work at a place that takes 2 months to make a decision on whether they're even going to interview you? Imagine what the interview process is going to be like. You're going to interview 3 and 4 times, and then we get to the second part of ghosting. You've interviewed with the company now 2 or 3, maybe 4 times, and you're feeling good. They've showed you the office you're going to be in. I mean, I could tell you 101 stories of people that have said, Mel, I can't believe I didn't get this. They showed me the office. They introduced me to the staff. I met everybody from the janitor to the CEO. I spent the whole day there and nothing. I haven't heard a thing. And they've ghosted me. Unfortunately, that happens. Now, what's happened now is either the company's had a bad quarter and they've decided not to hire the position. They meant to hire the position, but now they're not. Or the company's unsure whether they need the job filled. or the company wants to look at more applicants. The terrible thing about that is, as a human resource person, never show the person around and say, this is what your office is going to be, and here's the cafeteria, here's Joe the janitor, here's Jim the CEO, because it gives the impression that you're going to be hired. Now you can do that when you get down to your finalists, but tell the person, hey, you're one of the 3 finalists. Just because I'm showing you this, I want you to see the environment and the culture you're going to be working at. Just because I'm showing you this doesn't mean you have the job. It means you're in the top 3 or top 5 that they're considering. So take that, with a grain of salt. But if they show you all this stuff and then they ghost you, it's not the place for you anyway. Don't feel bad about it. It happens to everybody. Unfortunately, there's a lot of numbnuts that work in HR that don't know what they're doing and sit there and they try to pump you up. It's almost like a college recruiter trying to pump you up, and then they pump you up too much, and then they're like, the CEO goes back and says, hey, Mr. Recruiter, I didn't like any of those 3 people that came in. Continue the search, but look over here. Now, they want to keep you on a string because the CEO could come back to them and say, hey, I want one of those guys we interviewed last month. Oh, all right, I'll see if they're available, but they're probably not. Then you got a company that's got bad communication and bad organizational development, and you don't want to work for them. A good company is going to say, you know what, we like that person, we want to get them in here, and they're going to communicate with you and not ghost you. They're going to tell you, this is the process. There's 2 verbal interviews on the phone. There's 1 on Zoom. You're going to have to physically come to the office on the 4th interview. By then, usually we have an answer within 14 to 21 days. That's the company you want to go work for. Ghosting from the employer's standpoint. And why do you need to know this as an employee? Because you need to know how they feel too, and the reason why they ghost you. I hate to say it, it's a mutual ghosting association out there right now. What happens is I've got HR people, VPs, directors, managers that tell me all the time, I made this guy an offer and he was supposed to start Monday. I called him on Friday. He had given notice at his company. We had everything set up for his orientation and his training. Come Monday at 8 o'clock, he's not here. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, he's not here. I call his house. I finally get a hold of this guy after 2 days. And he's like, oh, I've taken an offer with another company. One, it makes you look bad, and you're burning a bridge you really shouldn't burn, especially if you are in a specific field like medical, or you're a specific field like retail or IT, where people talk within those industries and say, oh, I remember Jim Jeffries. Yeah, he ghosted me. He took an offer and didn't show up, didn't bother calling. I got him 3 days later. He told me he took another offer. Word gets around. You're going to burn those bridges. Nobody's going to be calling you on the phone. I was recently in Baltimore, Maryland, and I had to do a bunch of interviews. I did them from 7 in the morning till 6 o'clock at a hotel lobby. Had people coming in every hour on the hour. Now, what I told my assistant was kind of double me up in some areas because I know people won't call. I think I had 15 people scheduled. Of those 15 people scheduled for a really good job, by the way, I mean a really good job, about 8 of them didn't show of the 15. 8 no show, no call. And we have a system, we have an 800 number, text, email. There's no reason in the world the person should not have called and said, I can't make the interview today, I'm sorry. 8 people, just nothing. No, I'm not coming, whatever. Now, had I not backed up, I'd be sitting there by myself in the hotel lobby for hours waiting for the next person to come in. That's the thing that really frustrates HR people. They want to know that you're going to be there. If you can't be there, if your car breaks down or whatever, give them a call. Let them know as soon as possible. But just don't completely ghost them. I'm going to tell you what happens now in this age of electronics. They type into the applicant tracking system, Bill Jeffries had interview scheduled today at 3. No call, no show. Stays in there forever. So that recruiter gets fired a year from now or whatever. All of a sudden you see this ad and you're like, hey, I interviewed with that, or I was supposed to interview with that company. It was a pretty good deal. Now it kind of fits what I'm looking for. You call in and you're like, hey, my name's Bill Jeffries, and they're going to say, oh yeah, we see you, Mr. Jeffries. You were supposed to interview about a year ago, and no call, no show. No thanks. We'll pass. And they'll do it that quick because nobody has time to waste. and they're not going to get burned twice with you not showing up. It also shows that you're not professional, that you're not serious, that you have no respect for the company or this person's time. And unfortunately, what's happened with HR people is the lack of disrespect from the candidates that they've received is now being passed on to the employees, and they're ghosting you back. You want to know, as an HR person, if you're watching this, or as a hiring manager, the best way to not get ghosted is stay in constant contact with that person. Make sure that they've given notice. Check back up with them. I mean, I hate to say it's like herding kittens. And really, in a good environment, you shouldn't have to ask people, hey, I'm just checking in to make sure you're still coming, or did anything happen? But I can't tell you how many times I've called back in the past couple years and said to a person, hey, we're all prepared for you on Monday. Just wanted to check, make sure everything's good. Do you know the directions on how to get here? Do you know what you're supposed to bring? I'm going to need your driver's license or your passport for your I-9. I'm going to need, all this stuff. I'm going to need your bank information for your direct deposit. You start hearing that hesitation in their voice. Well, is everything okay? You're still coming, right? You still gave notice? Well, I didn't give notice yet. We've been waiting for this person for a week and a half. And that means we're looking at another 2 weeks. And I'm like, why didn't you? Well, my boss wasn't here to give notice to. Bullshit. Your boss wasn't there to give notice to? Come on. He's the only one you can give notice to? I'm not buying it. So I told the guy, I said, hey, man, be straight with me, okay? Do you want the job or do you not want the job? I just need to know. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but we need to fill this position, and I can't be waiting here on Monday for you to show up. And I've got other people starting orientation and you just don't come in. I've got other people that want the job. So do you want the job or do you not want the job? And 9 times out of 10, they'll be honest with you and say, nah, I was looking for this other job that come through. And I actually read this on their social media, which we talk about in another vignette that you'll want to watch about social media. The person put on their social media, I interviewed with this company, Mel's company, and I took the job, but I'm really hoping this other company calls, because then I'm not going to go there. I'm going to ghost Mel's company, and I'm going to go with this other company because it pays more. It's closer to my house. So up until the 11th hour, he's waiting to get a phone call from these guys because he's not going to tell me anything. He's not going to show up on Monday, and he's going to take their job. And that's what he actually ended up doing. He ended up taking that job, but I knew he was taking that job because I had read his social media and knew he was playing games. I wish I could say there's an answer to ghosting. It's going to get worse before it gets better. You just got to be prepared for it. Keep your second and third candidates lined up. Don't necessarily tell them the job's been filled until the person starts. And just keep in mind, unfortunately, that's the way of the world right now. People do not communicate when they're not going to start or they're not going to show up. It's almost like dating sites. I have people that tell me, hey, I was on Match.com or I was on whatever this site. I went to the bar, I went to the restaurant to meet the person, they didn't show. It's not just in the employment realm, it's everywhere. It's even gotten so bad at doctors and dentists' office that they're starting to charge whether you show up or not. I don't know why this phenomena is out there. I've had people, do all kinds of Q&A with me on what they think the reason is of why people just aren't respectful and don't show up anymore. There's no real answer. You just have to be prepared. To summarize about ghosting from the employer and the employee standpoint is make sure you communicate with each other, whether you're the employer or you're the employee. Be respectful of each other's time. And if you're not going to show up or you're not going to take the job or you're not going to hire the employee, just tell them. Just come right out and tell them. And no playing games or whatnot and oh my gosh, I need this person, so I'm going to wait a couple weeks because the other candidates I've made offers to might say no. Just be honest with the person and say it's going to probably take this amount of time. If you're applying for a job, show up for the interview. Be on time. If you accept the job, show up for the job. Don't call on Friday and tell them you're not going to come in on Monday. It's low class. It's no class. It's unprofessional. Don't do that. Communicate with each other. You respect them, they'll respect you. Ghosting won't go away, and it's unfortunately only going to get worse but be prepared from it, whether you're applying for a job or you're hiring, that you're going to have some backup and you're going to have some good communication, but you'll never avoid ghosting completely. Thanks a lot. See you next time. Poof.